I want to start off today by clearing up something that causes a lot of confusion and honestly a lot of unnecessary financial damage. Somewhere along the way, the S Corp turned into this almost mythical tax strategy. People hear about it from colleagues, Facebook groups, podcasts, or advisors who don't actually know their numbers, and it gets framed as this automatic next step. Like once you make a certain amount of money, you're supposed to graduate into an S Corp. But the S Corp isn't a badge of success. It's not a guarantee of savings, and it's definitely not harmless if it's done at the wrong time or for the wrong reasons. Today, I want to slow this down and walk through how the S Corp strategy actually works, what has to be true for it to work well, and the specific situations where I can see it backfire, sometimes quietly, sometimes expensively. The first thing we have to get right is understanding what an S Corp actually is. An S Corp is not a business structure you start. It's not a company type in the way an LLC is. It's a tax election you make with the IRS that changes how your business, how your existing business income is treated for tax purposes. Most people who become S Corps were already operating as an LLC or sole prop. The election simply tells the IRS, tax this business under S Corp rules instead. And those rules come with both benefits and obligations. You don't get to take the good parts without accepting the responsibilities that come with them. Before we go any further, I want to take a minute to introduce myself in a bit more of a personal way, because context matters here. I'm Cassie Sykes. I live in East Texas. I'm married. I have two kids. I run a business, and I juggle a lot of moving pieces, just like most of you do. I didn't come into this work because I love tax code or spreadsheets, although I do love my spreadsheets. I came into it because I watched smart, hardworking people, especially business owners, do everything right and still feel constantly behind, stressed, and unsure if they were making good financial decisions. I also know what it's like to be told this is what you should do without anyone slowing down to explain why or whether it actually fits your real life. That's why I'm very cautious with strategies like the S Corp. I don't care how popular it is. I care whether it actually helps you sleep better at night, helps keep you compliant, and supports the life you're trying to build, not just your tax return. Um, at its core, the S Corp strategy revolves around one thing, payroll taxes. In a sole prop or a single member LLC, all of your net business profit is subject to self-employment tax. That's Social Security and Medicare on top of income tax. When you elect S Corp status, the IRS tells you or requires you to split your income into two pieces. One piece is wages that you pay yourself through payroll. Those wages are subject to payroll taxes. The other piece is profit that flows through to you as a shareholder distribution, which is not subject to payroll taxes. The potential savings comes from that split, not from eliminating tax, not from hiding income, but from changing how part of your income is categorized. Um, Reasonable comp is part of the entire strategy. So the most important slide of the entire conversation is reasonable comp. The S Corp strategy only works if your salary is reasonable for the work you actually perform. Reasonable comp isn't a guess. It's not what feels good. It's not what someone else pays themselves. It's based on your role, your responsibilities, your experience, and your industry. If you underpay yourself to increase distributions, you're not being clever, you're creating risk. And when the IRS looks at S Corps, this is the first place they look. When they reclassify distributions as wages, the savings disappear and penalties get layered on top. If your salary isn't defensible, the strategy collapses. An S Corp starts to work when there is true excess profit in the business. That means after paying yourself a reasonable wage, there is still consistent profit left over. Not one good month, not a lucky year. Consistency matters here. You also need operational stability. Payroll has to run on time. Bookkeeping has to be accurate. Cash flow has to be predictable enough that you're not constantly reacting. The S Corp is a strategy for businesses that have reached a certain level of maturity, not businesses still trying to find their footing. One of the biggest reasons S Corps backfire is excuse me, is because people only focus on the tax savings and ignore the added costs. Payroll services cost money. Payroll filings add deadlines. S Corp tax returns are more expensive than individual tax returns. Bookkeeping standards go up. Reasonable compensation should be reviewed regularly, not just set once and forgotten. When you add it all up, I often see situations where the savings are marginal at best, and in some cases, the structure costs more than it saves. The first failure point for S Corps is timing. A lot of people elect S Corp status too early, before profits are stable or before they even understand what their numbers look like. The second is payroll errors, either no payroll at all or payroll that's clearly too low. Both create compliance issues. The third is cash flow blindness. Distributions still create income tax. If you're not paying or not planning for that, you'll end up surprised when estimates or balances are due. And finally, I see people that treat the S Corp like a finish line instead of a tool. Once it's in place, they stop asking whether it still makes sense. Veterinary practices add extra complexity. Payroll is heavy, staffing changes frequently, equipment purchases are large and irregular, margins vary more than people expect, cash flow timing matters. An S Corp can be a great tool for a veterinary owner, but only when it's layered on top of clean books, strong cash flow awareness, and proactive planning. Otherwise, it amplifies existing problems instead of solving them. If you're already an S Corp, you need to ask yourself whether you truly understand how your salary was set and whether it's still appropriate today. Ask yourself whether you know how much you're saving net of all costs. Ask whether your structure actually supports your lifestyle or just adds complexity. If you're not an S Corp yet, ask whether your profits are predictable, whether you're ready for added compliance, and whether you want structure, not just savings. If any of those questions feel uncomfortable, that's okay. Awareness is always the starting point. So the S Corp is supposed to support a bigger picture in your business. It should align with your cash flow, your personal planning, and long-term stability. It should be intentional, reviewed, and adjusted as life and business change. When it's used that way, it's definitely powerful. When it's used as a shortcut or as the obvious next step, it can become a liability. If what we covered today highlighted any gaps, uncertainty, or even just a sense that things could feel more organized, that's completely normal. Most veterinarians aren't missing effort, they're missing clarity. The challenge isn't knowing more strategies, it's understanding how your income, personal finance, and cash flow actually work together in real life. If you want help applying this to your actual numbers, you can book a free profit and cash flow analysis. On that call, we'll walk through your income and cash flow, identify what's working, where money may be leaking, and map out clear, practical next steps for your practice. No pressure, no jargon, and no unnecessary digging into your books. You can grab your free time at the link on the slide, or I'll also drop it in the comments. Before you go, I want to share an incredible resource designed to elevate your veterinary practice's financial success. I put together a free ebook just for you called 7 Financial Strategies. Inside, you'll discover practical steps to increase your profitability, improve your cash flow, and make smarter financial decisions for your practice. You can grab your free copy in the comments. All right, that's it for today. If this helped, please pass it along to another vet owner or friend who could use a clear picture of their numbers. And if you're ready to get your numbers dialed in, go ahead and book that free profit and cash flow analysis. I will see you next time.